Hello all and welcome back to Finominal UK. In today's video, we'll be carrying out a full fund review of the quite popular UK mutual fund, the Fundsmith Equity. To start, we'll head over to the Fund Explorer and just type in the fund name, Fundsmith Equity. We can see quite a few different share classes to choose from, so I will carry this analysis out based off of the one with the highest AUM. And we can see quite a popular fund indeed at just over 10 billion AUM. And in regards to the fees across the share classes shown, for the majority of them, it seems to be 0.94%, though I do note a maximum fee of 1.58%. So overall, it is quite an expensive fund, but this is also quite a popular fund. So let's find out if that fee is justified. Moving over to the fund analyzer, I am going to swap out the benchmark for the MSCI World. Reason for that is whilst it is a UK mutual fund, it does have quite a high international equity exposure. And we'll also change the start date to since inception, which was the 1st of November 2010. So we've got over 2 decades of data to analyze here, which of course is fantastic. And straight off the bat, we can see the Fundsmith Equity Fund has considerably outperformed the MSCI World Index since inception. Compound annual growth rates at 14% versus 12%, lesser volatility at 13.8% versus 14.3%. It's also seen a lesser max drawdown at just over 22% versus just over 26%, and a higher Sharpe ratio at 0.92 versus 0.75. So across all those metrics shown, we can see the Fundsmith Equity has outperformed its benchmark. Moving over to asset classes and markets, we can see quite a considerable amount held within the US at just over 75%, just under 10% exposure to France, just over 5% in Denmark, as well as just over 4% in the UK and 4% in Spain. In regards to market cap, mainly consisting of large cap stocks. And in regards to the sectors of those stocks, we can see an overweight in information technology, healthcare, and consumer staples against the MSCI World Index, and an underweight in financials and industrials. Quite a strong underweight in financials, which is especially interesting for a UK mutual fund where we tend to see a lot more FTSE companies within the financial sectors. So yeah, that's definitely one thing that pops out to me, so to say. Moving over to alpha and factor exposures. Mainly the low volatility and quality factor have been the main equity factor exposures for this particular fund. And in regards to alpha attribution for the fund manager, cumulative alpha is 473.43% and an alpha consistency of 11 out of the past 15 years. So strong alpha performance indeed from Fundsmith. Looking at drawdown analysis and backtesting, we can see that overall the Fundsmith Equity Fund has seen a lesser drawdown than the MSCI World. Now, if we want to replicate these returns to analyze it across even further data, we can see that even across just after 2008, we've actually seen the Fundsmith Equity see again a lesser drawdown than the MSCI World based off of the data shown. Moving over now to how this compares against the fund's peers. So we can either compare this against cheaper peers or all peers. For the Fundsmith Equity, we will select the Aberdeen Life Global Equity Funds, also select the BNY Mellon Long Term Global Equity. We will also select some a little bit more expensive, such as that CCLA Better World Global Equity. And we'll just leave it to those because when we head over to the asset comparer to see how the Fundsmith Equity is stacked up against its peers, I'm also going to put back in the MSCI World as the benchmark, just so we can see exactly how this compares. One thing I will note here is the history is much, much shorter. As we can see, we've only got this going back to April 2022 versus the fund analyzer analysis was based off of over 2 decades of experience, of history, should I say. The reason why I note this is because that initial analysis we done shows that Fundsmith Equity as a very strong fund against its benchmark. But now if we look at how it's performed more recently, we can actually see that it was one of the funds that underperformed the most, just under the CCLA World Global Equity, but it has also underperformed against that MSCI World Index within more recent years. We can see the statistics breakdown for each individual fund shown. So again, if we look at this just from the compound annual growth rate since April 2022, 4.98% versus 7.29%, 7.72%, and 4.5% versus the benchmark of 11.77%. So overall, for the Fundsmith Equity, we can see that if looking at since inception data, we can see the fund manager has delivered quite strong and consistent alpha, but though has seen a slight drop down in performance in more recent years, is what I would say on that. Well, that brings me to the end of this fund review video. I do hope you found it helpful and informative. And of course, if there are any particular funds or portfolios you would like me to review, please do leave them in the comments below. But other than that, please do like and subscribe, and she'll see you in the next one. Thanks all.